The bath is a metaphor par excellence for human life. Walking is living, and living is walking. With the help of a cane, the traveling nun, Saint Teresa, took her message and her way of relating to God to other people in other places. Teresa died in 1582, having founded 17 convents in Spain. Almost 500 years later, coming up to the 5th centenary of the birth of Saint Teresa, there are 624 convents for friars and 759 monasteries for nuns throughout the world, where people dedicate their lives to God under Teresian charisma. Path of Light, a world pilgrimage organized as a homage to the birth of the saint, is a journey through time and space. 4 pilgrims, among them the Carmelite friar Antonio González, will carry the very cane that Saint Teresa used on her founding journeys to 30 countries across 5 continents. The relic will take on active missions and visit some of the most unusual places belonging to the Order of the Discalced Carmel throughout the world. In addition, most importantly, it will unite people of different cultures through Teresian faith, devotion, and prayer. However, let's start at the beginning. Where does the name Discalced Carmelites come from? Tradition has it that it was in Mount Carmel, located in what is now the state of Israel, where God revealed his existence to the prophet Elisha. Inspired by this revelation in the 12th century, in the myth of the Middle Ages, a group of hermits, half pilgrims, half crusaders, began meeting up on this mount. Soon, the Order of the Carmel spread across Europe. Nonetheless, this way of life through faith and contemplation became more relaxed in the convents and less associated with the lives and experiences of the first hermits and anchorites. At the dawn of the 16th century, a woman by the name of Teresa of Cepeda and Ahumada, born in Avila, Spain, undertook the reformation of the order and founded the Discalced Carmel. At first, it was to be an independent province and then a congregation. Finally, at the end of the 15th century, under Pope Clement VIII, it was turned into an independent order. The pilgrimage set off from Avila on the 15th of October 2014, a liturgical holiday to celebrate Saint Teresa of Jesus, returning on the 28th of March 2015, the very day of the 500th anniversary of the birth of the saint, the day that marks the 5th centenary.
Ayer el Carmelo, en una ceremonia íntima acompañados por nuestro obispo, pudimos abrir en familia este centenario en la Iglesia de la Santa, con el rezo de las vísperas y la Eucaristía. Hoy ya nos unimos a toda la Iglesia y presididos por el arzobispo de Valladolid, don Ricardo Blázquez, que es a la vez presidente de la Conferencia Episcopal Española, vamos a dar el pistoletazo de salida a este 5º centenario.
Asiste a tus servidores que emprenden esta piadosa peregrinación y dirige su camino según tu voluntad. Que de día los cubra tu sombra protectora y de noche los alumbre la luz de tu gracia, para que acompañados por ti puedan llegar felizmente a su destino. Por Jesucristo nuestro Señor.
After leaving Avila, Brazil is the first stop on the path. 3 centuries earlier, in 1686, the first Carmelite brothers reached the coast of this country, and a century later, the first sisters arrived. Luciano Dirimo, the chairman of the Seglar Carmel in the southeastern region of Brazil, and the friars Aurelio, Emerson, and Hudson greet the Path of Light pilgrims in Sao Paulo.
Mucha gente tiene esta sed de Dios y este desafío de concatenar la vida teresiana con la espiritualidad de Teresa en una ciudad que hay mucha agitación, muchas cosas, y esto para mí es un desafío muy grande y creo que mucha gente nos gusta bastante la espiritualidad de Teresa, sobre todo en nuestra parroquia de Santa Teresita, y creo que en una parte nosotros estamos haciendo algo.
Although the team is suffering from jet lag, they are ready and looking forward to the first visit to the sanctuary of Nossa Senhora da Aparecida, the most important spiritual center of the country. The Carmel spills over with life in Brazil. New vocation can be seen in the exuberance and youth of the Latin American order. One day after the start of the Jubilee year in Avila, 8,500 kilometers away, Brazil looks like the beautiful dove that Teresa dreamed it would be one day. In Asunción, Paraguay, there is a surprise waiting for the Path of Light pilgrims. The popular radio presenter, Bibi Landau, is waiting at the airport to welcome them. In Tuparoga, the meaning of which in Guarani is House of God, the young postulants prepare an evening filled with music, dance, theater, and poetry. On their faces, it is easy to see their happiness when they approach Teresa's cane. The next day, Saint Teresa's cane is taken to meet the Venerable Maria Felicia da Jesus Sacramentado, known as La Chiquitunga. La Chiquitunga was a Carmelite nun who died in 1959, leaving behind a life of devotion and faith. Today, she is about to become the first saint in Paraguay.
Yo soy Magalí, la sexta de 7 hermanos. La Chiquitunga era la mayor de todas y yo era la sexta. La emoción que sentimos al ver toda esta fe, esta gracia que ella produce, ¿verdad? Y ser hermana, haber vivido con ella, haber estado con ella. Entonces es una cosa demasiado grande que realmente nos fortalece.
From Paraguay we fly to Uruguay, the brother country. In this country, we begin the journey that leads the path of light along the length of the Rio de la Plata. Almost 100 years after the Teresian Carmel is established here, Path of Light reaches the area of El Prado and the parish of San José de la Montaña in Montevideo. There, they partake in a wonderful Mass that culminates in an evening of celebrations in honor of the saint.
De las cosas más bonitas que Teresa nos ha dejado son sus poesías. Ve ante mis ojos, dulce Jesús bueno. Ve ante mis ojos, muérame yo luego. Es el ansia de conocer a Jesús, de quererlo, de vivir en su interior este amor inmenso. Uno puede decir, están locas estas mujeres, pero también se lo dice de los curas y estos chiquilines. Acá hay algunos seminaristas del Carmelo. Uno puede decir, ¿qué les pasó? ¿Qué les fracasó? ¿Qué les fue mal? Y uno diría, ¿qué les fue bien? ¿Qué maravilla descubrieron? ¿Qué tesoro encontraron? Que hay un camino de felicidad más hondo que tiene que ver no con esa sed de la sociedad consumista que nos lleva a querer tener cosas y más cosas o a querer ansiar todo aquello que en el tener y en el placer puede llenar nuestros ojos, pero que no llena nuestro corazón.
Continuing south by boat, we reached the southern country, Argentina. The Path of Light team crosses the river of La Plata from Montevideo to Buenos Aires. Waiting for them, in the convent of Our Lady of the Carmel, a welcoming committee with the principal of the order in Argentina and national representatives who have put together a national committee to celebrate the 5th centenary. The first foundation of the Descalzed Carmelite Mothers in Argentina dates from 1628. This and other monasteries for nuns in Latin America in existence prior to the 19th century were established due to the initiative of some women or group of women that were inspired on reading about Saint Teresa to continue on her charismatic path. Argentina, the land of writers, poets, and musicians, celebrates the birth of Teresa by pointing out her artistic virtues, her literary work, and creativity. Each aspect of her life is a motive of inspiration. Saint Teresa's cane is on his way to visit a new, special, and important temple because Jorge Bergoglio, known nowadays as Pope Francis, officiated there. He is a much-loved figure in the Carmelite communities since, during his ministry as Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he visits and held Mass in the monastery of Saint Teresa of Jesus.
En este monasterio, las paredes todas hablan de la presencia de Dios, a través de ellas, a través de su silencio, a través de su oración, a través de su servicio, a través de su caridad, a través de la vida de cada una de ellas.
The mountain range of the Andes, recumbent mother, a mother that walks. With these verses, the Chilean writer and Nobel Prize winner Gabriela Mistral greets the mountain that separates Argentina from Chile. The first Carmelites arrived in this country in 1690. 200 years later, in 1900, the Descalzed Carmel Fathers arrived. In Chile, another unusual encounter lies in a store relating to Saint Teresa's relic, and another relic that belonged to her daughters. canonized in 1993, Saint Teresa of the Andes is the first saint of Chilean origin. The arrival at the sanctuary of the walking cane belonging to Saint Teresa of the Andes is marked by suppressed emotion, silent. After solemnly entering the sanctuary, the cane is placed next to the spot where Saint Teresa of the Andes is laid to rest. Then, from the Andes to Colombia, a country bathed by two oceans and known for its exuberant nature. This is the second country in the whole of Latin America to have a Teresian foundation and to where Saint Teresa's daughters came at the beginning of the 17th century. Despite its antiquity, the life of the order in Colombia is full of young people. Songs, dancing and conviviality that last for days turns the pilgrimage in Colombia into a constant party. The cane is then taken to visit the recently inaugurated Carmelite Center of Spirituality, where thousands of people will continue to grow their spirit under Teresian charisma.
Nuestra comunidad lo hemos sentido, como te digo, como una bendición. Saber que ella está aquí, no hemos ido a Ávila, pero ella vino. Y en todo el contexto de la preparación del quinto centenario hay mucha energía, yo creo, estamos muy sobrecogidas.
One of the most special moments takes place during the so-called Procession of Lights. Various institutions associated with the order take part in the procession. Leaving Colombia behind us, the Path of Light arrived in Ecuador in the midst of great expectation. The influence of the Descalzed Carmel order in this country, in the city of Quito, is considerable. Following on from the first foundation of Descalzed Carmelites in 1653, the Carmelite Fathers arrived in the country in 1938.
Realmente para nosotros es un honor recibir la reliquia de Santa Teresa de Jesús, que realmente viene a iluminar la ciudad de Quito y el Ecuador entero.
In Ecuador, the pilgrims place the cane right on the world equator, where the north and south hemisphere divide. However, the big surprise is still to come. The president, Rafael Correa, greets the pilgrims in the presence of the Order of the Descalzed Carmel and holds the cane in his hands. After a day filled with emotions, at nightfall there is a more intimate atmosphere, where the vigil is held in the square of St. Francis of Ecuador. It is a moment of great spiritual intensity, in which many communities associated with the Teresian Carmel order take part. From the grand Baroque city of Quito, the relic travels to the Amazon forest in order to visit the missionaries in Sucumbíos. The Carmelite community has been in this region for more than 45 years and has close links with civil society. Carmelites such as Father Juan Berdonces are recognized for the extraordinary work they have carried out, and which is appreciated by the inhabitants in the area.
hemos ido creando una iglesia, creo que es muy bonita, muy típica, una iglesia viva, una iglesia donde realmente, pues qué sé yo, la gente sencilla, la gente pobre tiene su palabra, tiene su participación, está una gran participación, pero es una experiencia realmente inolvidable, una gracia de Dios muy grande el haber podido vivir esta experiencia aquí durante estos 40 años.
The journey around South America ends and the group makes its way north to Mexico. This country has a deep significance for the Order of the Descalzed Carmel. Upon these lands, in 1604, the first Carmelite monastery in the whole of the American continent was built. For this reason, the local community has prepared a warm welcome, ranches included, for the Path of Light pilgrims. The first visit is to the Basilica of Santa Maria de Guadalupe, one of the most traditionally spiritual places in Mexico. When Saint Teresa of Jesus' cane is placed underneath the painting of the Virgin, one of the trip's magical moments is felt. Tradition and history shake hands. In the city of Puebla, when the pilgrims arrive, a huge party in the convent temple of Our Lady of Mount Carmel welcomes them.
Llega el bastón a hacer una parada en la Catedral de Puebla, que es magnífica.
Afterwards, the cane sets off in the procession towards the monastery of Saint Joseph and Saint Teresa, the first monastery in America. The journey through Latin America has ended, charged with history, but also looking to the future, brimming with tradition, without which it would be impossible to understand nowadays the reality of the Descalzed Carmel in the world. Without stopping, but continuing to grow each day, the Path of Light arrives in the United States of America, a country filled with surprises for the pilgrims. In San Antonio, the second biggest city in Texas, Saint Teresa's admirers and those with a calling flourish, as our team witnesses the procession from the convent of San Damian towards the Basilica of San Antonio. The first days of December in 2014, the Path of Light continues on its path towards California. They first reached the Carmel of Christ the King in San Francisco. Afterwards, they made their way to the Carmel of the Child Jesus in Santa Clara. Saint Teresa's cane ends its trip around North America in the small town of Carmel by the Sea, an oasis of peace to which the Carmel gives its name. From the United States, the Path of Light pilgrims cross the ocean to reach land in South Korea. This South Korean stage marks the beginning of the pilgrimage across the Asian continent, where the mystical spirituality of Saint Teresa is widely admired. The pilgrimage experience is one of the most vibrant moments in the city of Muriang, where the pilgrims visit the Carmel. Some amazing celebrations with the pilgrimage on arrival at each one of the temples crammed with South Korean Christians, fervently moved by the Torisian message and by the arrival of Saint Teresa of Jesus Cane on the land. What role does the Descalzed Carmel have in a country that is so far away, as in the case of Korea?
Pienso que nuestra congregación de los Carmelitas Descalzos, creo que nosotros podemos ofrecer mucho nuestro carisma teresiano para ayudar a la gente a profundizar la espiritualidad y ofreciendo el método más concreto de la oración, junto con la vida de Santa Teresa y San Juan de la Cruz, ¿no? Y este aspecto de la espiritualidad creo que ayudará bastante la Iglesia de Corea.
After South Korea, another Asian country, Taiwan, awaits them.
Gracias.
Jorge Rengifo, el Monseñor Iván Santos y la licenciatura.
Encantado.
Former ambassador to the Holy See.
Ah. Nice to meet you.
Welcome, Teresa.
In Taipei, the capital, the Path of Light is greeted with the welcoming party organized by Mr. Borja Rengifo Llorens, Director General of the Spanish Chamber of Commerce. Also present are Ambassadors Marcial Bobadilla Guillén from Paraguay, Alfredo Martí Fuentes from Panama, and other European and Taiwanese figures of authority. Furthermore, the following people were present: Monsignor John Hang San-Chuan, Archbishop of Taipei and Chairman of the Synod of Taiwan; Monsignor Paul Russell, responsible for matters relating to the Vatican; and Monsignor Peter Louis, Archbishop of Kaohsiung, and Monsignor T. Kang, who was the Archbishop of Taipei. We wonder what being a Catholic in Taiwan actually means.
Catholic here in Taiwan, you have really to affirm your faith and to try to live your faith. And so that people after a while will question why are you like that?
The next day, the team take the cane to the monastery of the Carmelites in Shenkeng for the relic to be revered. After lunch, a large-scale mass is celebrated in the Jesuit parish of the Sacred Family. It is amazing how much interest the Teresian message has awakened in the people of Taiwan and in those from the Orient in general, as Saint Teresa is considered the mother of the spirituality. Exoticness, nature and music. Indonesia, a country where the majority of people are Muslims, greets the Path of Light with a colorful committee comprising hundreds of people.
Amin. Salam Maria penuh rahmat Tuhan sertamu.
Traditional beats, parades and dancing, all the color and flavor of this country in Southeast Asia lives up the trip. In addition, in the parish of St. Joseph's, a prayer takes place with the cane as protagonist.
La gente cree que hay algo diferente, algo especial que tienen los carmelitas. El espíritu de Santa Teresa, la fraternidad, acogida, la humildad, el amor unos a otros, amistad, eso es que nos influye y que nos empuja para vivir, para llevar nuestra vida.
There is something very profound in Saint Teresa's message, which permeates throughout this country. From this parish, the relic travels as far as the novitiate convent in Bogengua, from where it departs again 2 days later, with a procession to the convent of the Carmelite Mothers. The candles illuminate the pilgrims with the flame of love that lights the Teresian passion. It is a journey that takes more than 4 hours. As they travel, they silently pray. Most of those present would not forget this image. Reaching Australia is not easy, as the British explorer James Cook discovered all too well. In his case, he had to wait until 1771 to reach its ex-sovereign coast for the first time. As far as the journey over here was concerned, the path of light had to get round the difficulties of flights. However, eventually, the pilgrims reached the largest island in the world. At Sydney Airport, the team took a transit van to travel to one of the most emblematic places of the Discalced Carmel in Australia, Warraville. The property that belongs to the Discalced Carmel Order is located on a large area of land comprising a parish church, a school and monastery.
One lay down your head upon my breast. I came to Jesus as I was, weary and weak and sad. I found in Him my resting place, and He has made me glad. I heard the voice of Jesus say, behold, I freely give the living water. Thirsty one, stoop down and drink and live.
Making the journey in reverse order to the one undertaken by James Cook, the path of light travelled from Australia to New Zealand, where a welcoming committee meets them in order to accompany the pilgrims from the airport to the Carmelite monastery of St. Thomas the Apostle. Once there, the Bishop, Stuart O'Connell, conducts the celebration speech. Afterwards, An interesting feast takes place in which each person brings along a typical dish or produce from the country. In the lounge, people of all different ages, origins, and ecclesiastical backgrounds come together, a representation of all things Carmel throughout the world. When the feast is over, a pilgrimage on foot begins around part of Auckland to let it be known that the cane has arrived on the island. With Christmas just round the corner, the Path of Light arrives in Samoa, a state that gained independence from New Zealand in 1962. At Faleolo International Airport, the Discalced Army Order, which has been in existence on the island since 2003, meets the pilgrims. All the participants who want to follow the pilgrimage also meet them. In Apia, a communion is held in the cathedral that combines the solemnity of speech with folkloric displays pertaining to Samoan culture. A procession of Carmelites and Samoan Aborigines carry the cane as far as the cathedral, accompanied by chanting and decorated with flowers. When Eucharist is over, a cheerful choreographed number of the Macarena, Samoan style that would have made Los del Rio dance, surprises the Path of Light team. The expedition celebrates a moment that is deeply rooted in Christian faith, that of Christmas Eve in the monastery of St. Joseph, the only order in Samoa.
Welcome to India, Kaminolus.
India, the country of 1,000 colors, where dozens of languages are spoken and thousands of gods worshipped. Here, Catholicism is strongly felt, thanks to campaigners such as Vicente Ferrer or Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Here, also, the Discalced Carmel has a long and moving history. In 1620, the missionary father Leander of the Annunciation arrived in Goa, a Portuguese colony. The aim of the Discalced Carmel order was to start the Oriental mission. Almost 400 years later, the Path of Light arrives in this great country. The first stop is in the parish of Jesus the Child, in the city of Trichy. From Trichy, they set off towards the province of Kerala, where the Carmelites have a number of missions in the city of Trivandrum. It is here where the Path of Light pilgrims see in the new year, 2015, the year of the 5th centenary of the birth of the Carmel founder. The team are surprised by the number of young people in India that follow the tradition message in a country with such an ancient culture. The first day of 2015, the route continues on to Kollam in South Kerala. The next day, the Path of Light continued their travels across towards Delhi, stopping off in the province of Manjumei, where the Carmelite order has several missions in the city of Kochi. Eventually, the pilgrimage reaches the country's impressive capital city, Delhi. In the Carmelite cloister convent, Monsignor Anil Jose Tomas Kotu, the Archbishop of Delhi, holds a communion for all the faithful, in which he pays a special attention to the adventurous spirit of Saint Teresa. The team leaves Asia and prepares to head for Africa. However, due to the change of continent, it is necessary to make a change to the team. Father Antonio Gonzalez passes the cane to Father Jerome Paluku, who will guide the expedition across English-speaking Africa.
Great. Very, very great. In fact, I'm feeling blessed. I'm feeling honored. Not only honored, but blessed among the Carmelites. For me, it is, I don't know how to express myself. It is a journey that builds me, strengthens me more in my Carmelite life.
In 1936, a group of Irish sisters arrived in Kenya, a country located on the eastern coast of Africa. Their aim was to found the first Discalced Carmel convent, a goal they achieved a few years later. When the Path of Light reaches its first destination in Africa, the Discalced Carmel Order find themselves in the midst of the 75th anniversary to celebrate their Teresian presence in Kenya, in particular at the monastery of Nairobi. Their stay in the capital is a constant celebration. Among a number of other festivities, a choir comprising over 30 voices as part of the entertainment for the anniversary celebrations. After the festivities, the pilgrims set forth for Lake Victoria, one of the largest lakes in the world. From there, they journey on to Tindiniwe, and after that to Kisii, where a large crowd gathers for the celebrations in the open air, and there is chanting and African dancing, yet another one of the most amazing scenes on this journey. We continue journeying along the shores of the Indian Ocean. Tanzania was the Carmelites of India's first missionary experience outside their own country. In 2001, the India Carmelite Association founded the first monastery in Banda, a diocese of Musuma. Moreover, in fact, it is in Bunda where a procession sets off from the Carmel cloisters to the chapel, where the cane remains on display the entire night. The next day, Monsignor Renato Nkwande holds a mass attended by most of the Christian community in Banda. In the afternoon, the relic is taken to Nyamuzwa, where a small pilgrim choir performs.
We are really blessed to have this opportunity to have the months of Santa Teresa of Avila.
3 decorated cars go in front of the procession that leads them to the parish of San Pedro Claver, where the cane is revered with song and beautiful offerings. There was still yet another procession awaiting the Path of Light, from the parish of Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus, in which there was singing and flowers thrown at the cane. Finally, the procession ends its voyage in Morogoro, where preparations are made for the flight to Madagascar the following day. The The Carmelites are recognized in Madagascar for their contribution towards the education of young Madagascans. After landing at Ivanhoe International Airport, the pilgrimage makes its way to the parish of St. Teresa of the Child Jesus, where they attend a brief celebration. After spending a while with the nun daughters of the church in Talatamati, at the end of the day their trip takes them to Ampasanimalo. The next day, the Path of Light team visit 4 houses of the Descalce Carmelites: Ambohimanala, Tongarivo, Elanivato, and Ampasanimalo. The following days are the most important during the journey across Madagascar. The Archbishop of Tananarive, Monsignor Odon Marie Arsène Razana Colonna, presides over a celebration with the cane in the Cathedral of Andohalo. Next day, the pilgrimage arrives at the Carmel Convent in Moramanga, where their bishop, Monsignor Gaetano Di Piero, has prepared a wonderful Eucharist for them. With the spirit full, it is easier to tackle physical challenges posed by this journey. The 4 pilgrims continue on the path westwards to reach the convent of the Carmelite Fathers in Arivonimano. This is to be the last stop in Madagascar. Before leaving for the Ivory Coast, the Path of Light goes to the house of the Teresian missionaries in Itaosi to join in a procession round the whole city. An amazing and unrepeatable hour. We cross the continent from coast to coast in order to reach the Ivory Coast. The Descalce Carmelites arrived on the Ivory Coast not that long ago, compared to other overseas missions. They set up in Gonzagueville in 1999. The Path of Light lands in this city, where they are given a warm welcome in the grotto of the Carmelite Monastery. From here, a musical procession leads them to the chapel that has been prepared to welcome the relic. After a brief moment of silence, Father Embry holds a communion accompanied by the Saint Teresa Choir. The Path of Light continues its expedition to the Vitré Carmel Convent in the city of Grand Bassin. The people of Vitré were able to worship and get close to the cane, the Carmelite community's sanctuary. Under some trees, very close to the church, the cane awaits yet another surprise: an exhibition showing all the stages of Saint Teresa's life. The bishop sees to the final mass that marks the end of the Path of Light's passage along the Ivory Coast.
Hemos tenido la posibilidad de compartir el carisma de Teresa a los demás, hablando con las demás congregaciones y compartiendo también la experiencia de Teresa con los laicos, también, y sobre todo los de la parroquia nuestra. Y así que son momentos que hay que compartir con alegría y gozo.
Burkina Faso, whose name means Land of Integral Man in most language, is the next destination for our pilgrims. The Path of Light team make their way into the interior of this country via Ouagadougou, where they stay until the next day when the pilgrimage begins. Traveling along narrow roads and mud tracks, the pilgrims reach the Dougou. There, a celebration awaits them in the parish of His Holy Trinity, a vigil of prayer and praise, and a theatrical performance about the life of Teresa of Jesus. The celebrations do not end there. For their stay in Burkina Faso, a program of events has been prepared with the subject title, "We are on the path with Jesus, our true friend." Finally, in the evening, the pilgrimage heads over to the monastery of the Carmelites in Mundasol, marking the end of a journey that will set off, once again, this time for the Atlantic coast. Togo is the next place on the pilgrimage that awaits our pilgrims. The convent of Lomé was the third convent founded in West Africa in the year 2011. It is dedicated to the formation of those with a new calling who are drawn to the life of the Descalz Carmel. Within the framework of the 5th centenary and the arrival of the pilgrimage, a huge multidisciplinary and interreligious congress is organized that bears the thought-provoking title "Towards Reconciliation and Peace with Saint Teresa."
Lo que falta a nuestro continente hoy es la paz y la reconciliación, ya que estamos en un momento de conflicto que hace que hay cada persona tiene miedo de cada persona. Creo que con Teresa podemos sacar alguna cosa de ella que ayudará a la mujer africana.
The journey through Africa was ending, and the pilgrims were about to head for a place charged with significance for the Carmel and for the whole of Christianity, the Middle East. The arrival in Lebanon begins with the Mass in the convent of Our Lady of the Carmel, the city of Jasmieh. The same afternoon, the Path of Light visits the monastery of the Carmelites of Florence in Fana and the new Carmelite Foundation in Kefamaru. The Carmelite Fathers of Lebanon also wanted to have the cane close. For this purpose, the pilgrimage makes its way to the communities of Mekrelaya and Kubayat on the frontier with Syria. The little ones can also enjoy the proximity of the saint. The Path of Light does not want to miss their visit to a Carmelite college where a documentary entitled "For You I Was Born" about the life of Saint Teresa was shown. There lay ahead some other unusual experiences in Lebanon. For example, the visit to Behareh in the midst of a heavy snowstorm, where the monastery of Saint Elysee is found. There we experienced moments of great recognition. The journey is ending. Before this, it is compulsory to stop off at the provincial house and in Masura, where the sanctuary of the Child Jesus of Prague is found. The Path of Light says farewell to this land, so full of religious history, with an expedition to the monastery of Harissa, where the provincial presides over an unforgettable Eucharist. Finally, Israel, place of the Holy Land, the country where Mount Carmel is found. It was Father Prosper of the Holy Spirit, who came from La Rioja, and in the 17th century settled at Mount Carmel. In order to set up the Descalz Carmel order, Saint Teresa encouraged the first Christians, hermits and anchorites to live and experience their faith in the mountains surrounding this holy mount. The way in which they felt handing themselves over entirely to their beloveds led them to meditate deeply about the Passion of Christ. The passage of the path of light through Israel on the very day that Lent starts signifies the arrival of Teresa of Jesus 500 years later to the places that were the pillars of her faith and love of God. Saint Teresa's cane is welcome at midnight in Bethlehem. The cloistered nuns, whose temple is on top of King David's grotto, are there to welcome the team. The journey continues on to the Holy Land. In a small private ceremony, the cane is transported to Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed in the hours prior to his death. In the Church of the Nativity, we experience a moment filled with emotion, the strictest of intimacy. Saint Teresa's cane is placed above the star where, as tradition recounts, Jesus Christ was placed following his birth. The arrival at Mount Carmel, the birthplace of the order, is a moment of great intensity and emotion for the pilgrims. There, between the chants and prayers, they visit the monuments that the Descalz Carmel order is restoring.
Bien, la vuelta en la sala está así.
Ajá.
Estaba así.
Ajá.
Ese es el canal de la fuente, de aquí hasta abajo.
Ajá.
Una pequeña maqueta
Ajá.
de cómo puede ser. No sé.
After visiting Stella Maris Monastery to the farthest western point of Mount Carmel, looking over the bay and city of Haifa, the Path of Light says farewell to the Holy Land. The Path of Light arrives in Paris, the city of light, the metropolis that brings together culture, avant-garde concepts, and faith. 6 Descalz Carmelites arrived in the city in 1604 in order to set up the first convent in France. 400 years later, the 4 Path of Light travelers set foot again in the French capital. On their passage through Paris, a procession takes place that lasts the whole day. It starts at the gates of the Great Convent, the first convent founded in France, in Saint-Jacques Road, passing through Saint-Joseph-des-Champs, and after that, a small picnic before continuing on to the grave of the blessed Carmelites of Compiègne and ending up in the Mont Carmel. France has many unusual places for the order. Path of Light has an expedition planned to Pontoise, where Mass to be presided over by the Bishop, Monsignor Lalande, awaits them. One of the most emotive moments of the French stage is the visit to Lisieux, where the cane will visit Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus in the Carmel in this city. Finally, here was the founder and doctor of the Church, Saint Teresa of Jesus, and her daughter, who will also become a doctor of the Church, young Saint Teresa of the Child Jesus, who lived her whole life dedicated to the Teresian Carmel order. After this encounter between mistress and disciple, the Path of Light set off for Italy. Here, finally, in the city of Romulus and Remus, the welcoming and eternal city as portrayed in the film, the city from where Nero had to escape after cruelly persecuting the Christians, the path of light arrives.
Segui la modernità, fai la progressista, l'universalista, dighi ok, thank you, hello, yeah.
The first stop entails exhibiting the Mother's Cane in Santa Maria della Vittoria. This place is very special, because you can see the mythical sculpture of the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, a work by Bernini, an emblematic work for the history of art and revealing for the order. Afterwards, the team visited the Hermitage in Monte Virginio, in the catacombs of San Pancrazio. The most important moment of the journey has arrived. After 6 months traveling around the world with Saint Teresa's cane, on Wednesday, March 11th, the path of light reaches the Vatican. The pilgrim's emotion is evident. Pope Francis greets them and holds the cane of the saint in his own hands. The images spread around the world.
In questo mese ricordiamo il 5° centenario della nascita ad Avila di Santa Teresa di Gesù. Il suo vigore spirituale stimoli voi, cari giovani, a testimoniare con gioia la fede nella nostra vita. La sua fiducia in Cristo Salvatore sostenga voi, cari ammalati, nei momenti di maggiore sconforto.
Traemos el bastón de Santa Teresa de Jesús, la peregrinación Camino de Luz.
¿Y la vieja andaba con esto? Sí, se guarda en su casa natal, en Ávila. Ha estado también en Buenos Aires en noviembre. Tengo también un pequeño regalo para ustedes. Es de un camino teresiano entre Ávila y...
La camisa, Francesco, la camisa. La Mayel.
Este es el farol que acompaña al bastón, se lo regalamos. Emocionado. Este ha sido un momento muy hermoso, el poder hablar con el Papa y ofrecerle este bastón de Santa Teresa. Y es un momento muy bonito, que este bastón que tanta gente ha venerado, pues también el Papa lo haya venerado. Yo creo que para el Carmelo es un día de gozo este.
The Italian stage is still not over. After seeing Pope Francis and filled with hope, the pilgrims set off for Genoa. There, they visit Sant'Anna Convent, which besides being the first in Italy, is also the Order's first convent outside Spain. Then, from Genoa, a city of sailors, the path of light sets sail for Savona, where the monastery of Saint Teresa is found. In Arenzano, they hold a Via Crucis. After visiting Varazze and Loano, the pilgrimage heads for one of the most Catholic countries in the Baltics, Croatia. Famous for its elite sportsmen and women and for its interpretation of classical music, Croatia is a country with culture and high spirits. The path of light reaches Pozzega, where an evening program of shows awaits them, including music, theater, and poetry. After a well-deserved rest, they depart the next morning for Zagreb, where a pilgrimage begins on foot and they by train, passing by the chapel of Saint Teresa in Crete and on towards Maria Bistrica. On the last day, before setting off for Portugal, some young people surprise the pilgrims with a flash mob in the city center of Zagreb. The joy, illusion and motivation of all the participants is a great sign of just how alive the Teresian Carmel Order is in Croatia.
Los jóvenes en Croacia tienen un fuerte deseo de comunicar la experiencia del encuentro con Jesucristo a los fuera de la iglesia. No pueden quedarse así tranquilos, solos, rezando en sus rinconcitos, como dice Teresa, sino quieren salir. Y notamos una valentía y alegría cuando se sale. Y por eso encontramos la disponibilidad en los jóvenes para salir, para ponerse ahí delante de todos, cantar a Jesucristo, bailar, invitar a los actos del centenario aquí, del Camino de Luz, y todo esto extendiendo, difundiendo la alegría de Jesucristo que en el mismo tiempo crece en ellos.
The path of light is getting closer to its destiny, but not without visiting a country steep in Carmelite tradition, as is Portugal. Mary of Saint Joseph was the founder of the first Descalzed Carmel Order in Portugal in the year 1585. In the Portuguese capital, a warm welcoming party awaits their arrival at the Estrela Basílica.
Tem amizade fingida, se vai e volta a brincar, ninguém dá nada, se atrás.
Fatima is the second stop on the route, from where they visit the Carmel of Saint Joseph, where the pilgrimage encounters a Teresian and Carmelite family.
Só amigo é capaz, sem receber, dar amor.
From Fatima, the pilgrimage sets off for Oporto, a city known for its wine and industry, but, above all else, for the presence of the Carmel Order. It is in the Carmelite Church in the Square of the Lions, where Professor Joel Clero holds a conference about the history of the Descalzed Carmelites in the city. At the end of the afternoon, the bishop, Monsignor Antonio Francisco dos Santos, presided over the communion in the Stella Maris Church. The next day, the pilgrims arrived in Braga and visit a Teresian college and the Bon Jesus Carmel. The visit to the college is livened up with a musical and artistic performance. The pilgrimage says farewell to Portugal with a visit to the village of Santo Tirso, the sanctuary of Menino Jesus. After going halfway around the world, Saint Teresa's cane is brought back to the city where Saint Teresa was born, on exactly 500 years to the day when she was born, on the 28th of March. In the birth home of Saint Teresa, a solemn communion is held, presided over by the Bishop of Avila, Jesus Garcia Burillo, and concelebrated by the Superior General of the Order, Father Saverio Canistra. After a procession around the entire city, the cane was put back in the living room with all the relics in the house where Teresa was born, before going on a tour of Spain. In the middle of spring, the Path of Light begins a new and very important stage for the Descalzed Carmel Order, visiting the Saint Teresa of Jesus Foundation, monasteries and convents in Spain. On this occasion, Father David Mary of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, Isaac, the camera operator, and Ricardo Morales, a reporter, form the team that accompanies the cane on its travels. On their long journey around Spain, the Path of Light is welcome and Mass is given by the Bishop of Jaén, Monsignor Ramón del Hoyo, by the Cardinal and Archbishop of Valencia, Antonio Canizares, by the Bishop of Ciudad Real, Antonio Ángel Algora, by the Archbishop of Valladolid, Ricardo Blasquez, by the Bishop of Soria, Gerardo Melgar, by the Archbishop of Toledo, Braulio Rodriguez, by the Archbishop of Burgos, Francisco Gil Ellín, and by the Deputy Bishop of Madrid, Juan Antonio Martínez Camino. The pilgrimage set off from Avila heading south until reaching the beautiful city of Seville, where the saint originally founded the convent of San José del Carmen. The travels continue in an easterly direction, passing through Jaén, Murcia and Valencia, then turning inland through Castilla-La Mancha and finally reaching Madrid, where three important events take place. One with the deputy bishop, another in the provincial house of the Carmelites, the third in the new foundation of the Servant Sisters Mother's Home. Thus, until arriving back in Avila, the cane continues its journey, blessed as it passes through Burgos, Palencia, Burgo de Osma, and many other places in Spain, where Saint Teresa's influence is still alive 500 years later. An impression, a light that never goes out, a path that we will take together for many years to come. Because, as Saint Teresa said before dying, it is time to walk. Wherever she is, she carries on walking. We, too, walk with her.
Todo se pasa, Dios no se muda, la paciencia todo lo alcanza. Quien a Dios tiene, nada le falta, solo Dios, solo Dios. Basta, nulla ti ti turbi né ti spaventi, tutto passa, Dio non cambia, la pazienza